Hi there. Welcome everyone to First Principles. Today we've got Jeff with us, and we'll be talking about the differences between product, project, portfolio, and program. Hi, Jeff. How are you doing?
Hi, good. How are you doing, man?
Very well. Do you want to just introduce yourself for the context of this episode?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm Jeff Hubbard. I'm about 12 years in on doing all kinds of software development, technology development work, um, from engineering, implementation of technology projects, through product work, through like product director and CTO positions,
Hmm.
in the SaaS space, in enterprise space. Most recently, I mean, right now I'm doing building the grants platform at FEMA. So that is certainly the largest company I've ever worked for, the U.S. government.
Hmm.
But it's much different, and it's given me a lot of insight into things like what we're talking about today.
FEMA, yeah? I mean, that must be really different with the kind of jobs you've had in the past, right?
Yes, very, very different.
Wow.
Coming from, I mean, I've sort of been on this trajectory. My journey has been a, from being the only employee at a startup where I built the platform, teaching myself to code,
Yeah.
and that so going from a place, and this will dovetail well into what we're talking about, but the going from a place where I am the whole product team,
Hmm.
and engineering and product marketing and everything, to jumping from there to another startup where I was slightly larger, 30, 40 people. And again, in the same space where it was also SaaS and also live event ticketing. And there I was the entire product team.
Yeah.
And then I went to a giant multinational live events company where I was working enterprise, and I was a director of product management. And what a shock when I had actual product managers and actual senior product managers and project folks, and then now I'm at an even bigger company, but much more comfortable with the with the division of labor and the distinction between these different roles.
Yeah, yeah. Just one more point about your introduction here, because
Sure.
this is curious because we met through the ADP List platform and then various other places that you've recommended me to. I'm genuinely interested in figuring out what kind of a psyche would a person need in order to navigate these very different industries, even within the whole the pre FEMA phase of yours. Those were
Mhm.
very different industries. So, what kind of openness are we talking about? Like, what are the characteristics there?
Um, to clarify, you mean to the characteristics of being able to go between
Yep.
different, well, I mean, at its base, product work is understanding striving to understand the user
Hmm.
and their pain points and what they're doing. And of course, that's part of it, and
Hmm.
part of it is understanding the business.
Right.
So I coming from live events, coming from theater, like I understood the business and was deeply connected to the users, a being a like theater lover myself. When I first got into it,
Yeah.
um, that was an easy jump to make. Like I knew what the pain points were, but there was a big gap when I went to from there to Informa, where I was working with these giant expo companies and doing conferences. It was a much different user, and I really had to, jumping into it, I was like, oh, this is fine. I know product. Like I know
Hmm.
what I'm doing. I can just learn about this. And I really had to back off and listen for a long time,
Right.
and do like a really intense listening tour for like 3 months, where I just got to know the players at every level, sat back and or, dug into the platform and figured it out. And I realized how much I'd taken for granted the fact that I knew a lot about the industry before.
Hmm.
So and to answer your question, like the openness has to be about just figuring out always be user focused, always understand that you're trying to connect those folks to the business, and then open up and learn about the new business, learn about the
Right.
market. You are, as a product manager, you are in essence the connector between the market, the user, and the business,
Right.
and everything that entails. So it really does. You really do have to have an openness to learn about those things when you go to a new position.
Yeah. Okay. So you've used the term product manager, which gives me a segue to get to the meat of the episode. So while I was getting trained at not at PMI, but by a PMI affiliate,
Mhm.
they had this distinction between product, program, and portfolio. And then
Right.
later on, I learned project, program, and portfolio. And later on, I learned product. So what's the difference between all these three things, first of all?
So they are. I mean, it's interesting that we're looking at these four because
Hmm.
they are sort of they sit side by side and they stack. You the more tactical part, the more tactical is product manager and project manager.
Okay.
They're, sitting side by side, and they're not always hierarchically above, but kind of above them in the space, where everything lives. Is above product is portfolio, and above project is program.
Ah.
And the idea is that those folks, and I'll get into the specifics of what everybody does a little bit more, but that the on top positions, portfolio and program management, they just have to coordinate a lot of different projects and a lot of different products. So everybody has sort of the same amount of work, but they just the level of their view is a little bit different. And it might, there there aren't conflicts in what they do. In fact, everybody, I think, would um, all four positions working in the same company for the same business would probably be pretty aligned. And it's really all handoffs have to do with this alignment on what their goals are,
Hmm.
uh, and they should strive to be aligned in all those goals. But those goals, they're going to be there are going to be some slight differences though, and they're depending on the position. The threshold for making a decision is going to be different. If uh, a a program manager might prioritize one project over another because of resource constraints,
Hmm.
or a portfolio manager might prioritize one product over another because of an initiative where they just deem one to be more in line with the company goals. The product managers under them are still aligning everything they do with the company goals, but the portfolio manager has to decide which one of those to go with and to put more time into prioritize.
Okay.
Um, so there's a higher level strategic decision with the portfolio and program managers.
Okay. Now, a few tangential questions.
Yeah,
Portfolio is also very widely used in the financial world, right? So is this
yeah.
similar?
In that, when you're talking about a portfolio, I don't. I'm big huge disclaimer here that I am like very far from fintech and never.
Or just old school finance, having
Yeah,
like
yeah,
your,
I know
yeah, yeah,
exactly. I know what you're
yeah,
saying. Like, my portfolio that my investor portfolio, like
yeah.
it. I get that. I just in case anybody watches this and is like, no, that's absolutely wrong. Uh, that's my caveat. We are, or when you think about a financial portfolio, you're thinking about what your holdings are,
Hmm.
your investments, the things that you are, the like tangibles that you own. And they could be, they're obviously ethereal, like they are a share in something, but
Yeah.
they're still a collection of those things that you own. And products are the same thing. You're looking at your product managers develop a thing, a product, a service, project managers might not have their deliverable is the project,
Right.
but product managers, their deliverable is the product. And so projects might not have as tangible a deliverable as the product managers have. Um, so if you think about that in the portfolio managers being above products, they have a lot of products in their portfolio. They have a lot of things that they're holding,
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
and they have to prioritize one of those over the other, just like you would if you've got a certain amount of money to spend in your financial portfolio, and you need to resource products, or you need to prioritize a release schedule. then you look at those and go, okay, I have to put my resources in this one because it's more aligned with my values, say, or with what the market's doing,
Right.
um, or with whatever, in this scenario, like I am a business, I'm being the portfolio holder, with whatever my interests are.
Hmm.
And that is that I'd say that's how the analogy works out. That is how the two things relate.
Okay. And then the other tangential question is that these four topics, let's say they are on the right hand side, and then on the left hand side is functions, areas, operations, things that go on. So
Right.
do you think, like, what's like a reasonable, good definition of the difference between these two camps? Like, this ends, this does not, something like that?
That well, so and this is a good. This ends, this doesn't, is sort of the definition of product and project, I'd
Right.
say.
Right.
Like that is that line sits between them, right? A project has an end. Project
Right.
managers have an end date on their schedule. They've got an actual uh what like I mean, they think that's probably why Gantt charts are probably more.
Yeah.
I haven't done as much project work, but I think that they're more successful in project management because you are following the same process. Theoretically, if you're in a PMO or something, you're following the same process over and over,
Hmm.
and you have a good feeling about how much time everything takes, and so you can kind of rely on whatever that Gantt is, as opposed to product managers have their job really never ends. They've got these roadmaps that keep time goes on and you pile on more time.
Hmm.
It just shifts to the left. And so product managers are never done with their work. They are, whereas or never done with the product.
Hmm.
Project managers theoretically are done with the project and then move on to another one and then another one.
Okay, so in this scenario, where do operations come in then? Because my if I forget about product for a moment, I'd say that operation, let's say you're working in the company's finance team, unless the company goes away, that role is needed. Or of course, some let's say some new AI system comes in, that's a different thing. But that role exists. It's not like everything ends, but I'm finding it difficult to draw a line between these four components as well as the functional areas. Uh, so I don't know what the exact question is, but like I don't know if you
No,
can
no,
get me
I think
drift.
I
Yeah,
hear you.
yeah.
For a long time I was like, this company is only product, so it doesn't matter. I like that. And I think that's how a lot of product folks, you think that PDE is the thing,
Hmm,
especially with SaaS. Like
hmm,
you are the service, the software that you're building is the thing. And if you are a product led company, if you're devoted product led growth, if you are um, doing, then everyone is putting their eggs in the basket of like product driving all of these things, driving
yeah.
sales, driving marketing, and that we are. I think the time we live in, or maybe the last couple of years, like that's been that has been a place where people went that like
Hmm,
product is the company. And of course, being in product, there are definitely times in my life where I was like, no, everyone should listen to me because I'm the product. Like,
yeah.
but that I realize now, being a little bit older and wiser, that is not actually the case. Everything is about coordination. All these folks are stakeholders. Everyone is involved in the go-to-market process.
Hmm,
Everyone is involved um, in everyone. In fact, your job as product manager and then maybe even director of product, like when you really start moving up the chain, is communication with these other parts of your company. So everyone is important and has an important job. Customer success, operations, finance. You can't. You might think that like the product is the most important thing, but if the invoices don't get out there and don't get paid, like you can't. Then your company falls apart.
yeah.
If you've got a sales team, you can't ignore them. Like you are they are they're the face of, or they're a first point for a lot of customers that are coming in. And so they have a lot of great insight. They have a lot of great market insight because they're talking to folks who are saying no as well. And I mean, it's not just looking at list of a list of features that were requested that they're that they're leaving you for, for a competitor. They're saying you don't have this or that. It's also that they're talking to these folks. And so they
Yeah.
are um, everyone in the company is an important resource and needs every other part of the company needs coordination with you for release, for communication, for making sure that you don't disrupt processes. They're all stakeholders,
Hmm.
and they all need to know what's going on in the product, and in a lot of cases it affects directly what they are doing.
Right, right. So hierarchy aside, though, who is the central node over here? Because there has to be a certain vision and a certain vision manager that is driving all these other folks. Like, what are the collections team collecting on? What are the customer service teams servicing on? So
Right.
you still think, and again, another question is this: isn't every company a product-based company? Because you are selling products, and that is. So
You
what do
would
you think?
think.
No, no, okay,
Yeah.
okay,
Well, yeah, it depends on the company. It's like you are and I would say that but the answer to both of those questions is it depends on the company. It
okay.
depends on how your team operates for the actual communication. I mean, you can look at the textbook and say, okay, it is product marketing is in charge of go to market and prepping materials for customer success and for sales and doing and running a design and research team and doing like user interviews. Like that could fall into that. And product is the represents the product managers represent the connection in the business itself, and product owners uh, represent the well, depending on the company, like the dev team or the end user. Like it's all over the
Yeah,
place.
yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah.
so it's gonna. I mean, there was I think last year that even like we're talking about all these positions, and I think they've all got very specific and important value. But like last year, I think Airbnb decided to man, I got to look this back up, but I think it was Airbnb decided to ditch all the product managers and just go with product marketing and BAs, but
Hmm.
business analysts, and that's it to like fulfill the function. So you really do see this uh this shifting line between what it is that everybody does and where all of the responsibilities fall.
Hmm.
So every company is going to have a selection of these roles, but not all of them, and it's going to be defined completely differently. So the back to the original question, I guess, who is responsible for
The,
uh
the core.
the core of it. I would always go back to the product manager. They
Hmm.
are they are the vision. They are the vision of that product. They are they decide to build what and why. They are in charge of the strategy around sticking to that vision. So I would always default to the product manager for that being that core.
Okay. Okay. It's interesting that you said that the lines are shifting. So that brings, gives me some ease because I'm like, I'm getting really confused with this. And yeah.
I should have said this. I mean, the huge caveat for all of this is that I have never. I know all this stuff because I've worked at a bunch of places. Things are different. I understand that they change with scale,
Hmm.
but I have never worked anywhere where all of these exist at the same time.
Okay.
Um, Depending on the needs of the company of an initiative of like that of the market, you'll find different degrees of a team that's built or different makeups of a team using these roles, and sometimes you'll find different responsibilities.
Hmm. Hmm.
I mentioned that when I was with Lucky Seed initially, I was doing all of this stuff plus the engineering. And then when I was with On the Stage, I started off as the only product person. And into my time there, maybe a year in, we brought on a product marketing manager, and she was, or product marketing director rather, and she was great. And that was the first time that I was ever that I was ever introduced to the idea that I wasn't in charge of go to market. That somebody else took that, and I wasn't in charge of making walkthroughs and
Hmm.
making. I went from this place of being the only person who was doing all this stuff, who was doing requirement gathering and writing user stories and writing documentation and uh, doing user interviews and do like across the board to having some of that taken off my plate. And that's when I really realized, oh, other functions here so that I can focus on
Right.
strategy and vision.
Right. So, and this might get even more confusing if a company is mostly tasking their principal engineers to also play product managers or project managers. And on the other end of the spectrum, there are project coordinators and their assistant product managers, and
Oh my
all of these
gosh.
people come in. Okay, so so people are creating roles
Yes.
depending on the needs at hand. What what's the basis of deciding these lines, or is it mostly, throw things at the wall, see what sticks, and we'll figure it out, whatever the best thing evolves?
Are you asking from the point of view of
And the company.
the
Uh,
company? Okay,
yeah.
got it. It's going to depend a lot on the experience of the leadership of
Hmm.
who's in there. They are if they've had sometimes you'll bring someone in you'll bring a new CTO and they
Hmm.
will go, oh, I ran a PD department with where we had an entire research division that was just doing all this user research
Right.
and all this generative research and running experiments constantly. So we're going to put all of our resources into that, and um, they might actually assign product managers to that to do some of the early generation of products from a to get them up to an MVP or POC stage
Hmm.
from what comes out of that, so that they have they can build up uh, an engine for new learnings and for new products. That's not unusual, and you might see that if you've got um, a CTO who subscribes to that.
Right.
Um, they if they're more of an engineering person, they might just elevate a good engineer and make them a product manager and like backfill their knowledge with product and business knowledge
Right.
because they know so much about the business at that point if they've been around for a while.
Yes.
Um, and in some cases they don't even call them product managers. They're just like lead engineers, like you
Right.
mentioned,
Right. Right.
elevating the engineers to fill that space to do the product work.
Yeah.
Um,
I
so
like
it
the
yeah.
I like the metamorphosis over here because one could explore different talents that they have that they're hidden. Sometimes I do think though that somebody is very technically inclined, it might be a disservice to them if you get them in a more product or business kind of role. Not always, maybe they want to try out. So what do you have to say to that?
Well, in the product manager is and I mean, but what we're if I were gonna say one thing about it after all of this that we've been talking about for the last half hour, it's an amorphous role. Like it
Hmm.
is in the software space, it's still I mean, we think of it being 20 years old, but it's relatively in its infancy. It's still changing so much that and it really it seems to change every couple of years
Right.
to and the software um the technology landscape changes so much every couple of years that the role kind of changes with it, which is great because because we can change and keep up with it.
Hmm.
Like I don't know any product managers who are stagnant in learning, who are stagnant in growth. Like if you and everyone has a completely different story.
Hmm.
Um, when I look at product management on very very basically, there's a continuum of product manager that is needed for something.
Hmm.
And the continuum starts on a technical side and goes to a marketing side.
Right.
And you might have a distinction where somebody's asking for a TPM, a technical product manager, or a product marketing manager. But a lot of times it's just a product manager and they want them either to take a little more ownership over the engineering team or take a little bit more ownership over go to market. And that is the experience of any given product manager usually falls in there somewhere.
Hmm.
Um, but I mean the back to like the initial comment about the openness to a new job after you have some product experience. Your responsibility stepping into that role is to try and even yourself out on that continuum.
Right.
Um, but it's really exciting that product work, no matter where you're coming from or where you're going, or what your experience is, everyone's got a different story. Everyone's got a
Right.
different journey. I went to theater. I went to school for theater. Like
Hmm.
had a musical theater degree, and then I'm like going on to build software. 15 years later, everyone, and there's strengths that I pull from that too. That I'm like, oh well, I can be a good storyteller. I can be a
Yeah.
good communicator. That is an important that is an important skill for product managers to be able to create alignment, to be empathetic, to
Yeah.
connect with people. So everyone can be a good product manager. You just look at your own journey, you draw out those skills. They fall within one of these within one of these roles, and it's really, I don't know. I'm obviously total product nerd. Like I'm really excited about it.
So I was just thinking that the theater degree there, I mean, I'm assuming it included acting as well as stage production design and all of those things.
Yeah,
Those are projects and products that need to be put out.
exactly. This is me in my first interview, like trying
Hmm.
to trying to tell them, no, no, seriously, I've got project experience. Look, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay. Now, programs and portfolios. Why do we need, is there a serious distinction there? Like, or is it just because a lot of nonprofits, they don't use the term portfolio, they say program manager or program
Right.
officers. So is it just like people have a favorite word and they've stuck to it? Or is there a serious distinction between these two?
There's a distinction,
Okay.
and I would say that portfolio managers are going to be necessary at places where you've got a you've like the Disney streaming,
Hmm.
Disney Plus, DSS. They have so many product teams because they have so many products that are so resource intensive that they have to have these teams broken up that really take care of that, almost insular teams that take care of like internal tools and finance and subscription, and like so they're broken up into these different teams, and they and then devs kind of their dev team sort of moves around, but their dev team is a resource that has to be managed among these teams. So they are going to require someone like a portfolio manager or a director of product. This is where I'd say a portfolio manager would be necessary, because they have to. Each one of those people is going to think that each one of those product managers is going to say, my product is the one that has to be built right now.
Yeah.
And everything can't go into the roadmap with marketing. Everything can't be released at the same time.
Hmm.
Some stuff might be able to, like you might be able to release a new CMS for your internal users at the same time as you're releasing a new UI for your external users. Like that might be okay from a marketing perspective,
Hmm.
but your portfolio manager will have to be on top of that, really making sure that all that works together. So
Okay.
when you have multiple products, you um, the one way that I've heard this distinguished is that the product manager is the why and the what to build. The why are you building it? What are you building?
Hmm.
The portfolio manager is the which. Like, which of these are you picking to build next, or to focus on right now, or
Right.
to put it in this spot in the roadmap?
Right. I thought
Um,
you said which, like WITCH.
no, that's not in my experience. And in that same uh, format, the project manager is the how and the when.
Okay.
Um, so they are the people that are working on an initiative or working on a release schedule, or something like that. So
Hmm.
those are that but I'd say that's when that is when you trigger a portfolio manager, is when you have a lot of products that are getting potentially um, that need some strategy around their release. Um, for a program manager, over many projects, they are a coordinator. They're a
Hmm.
resource coordinator. They are there to make sure that to make sure that the projects are all on course, and are being resourced correctly, and are being um, prioritized correctly from a higher level than the project managers are.
Okay. If I attempt to abstract out certain principles, then certain through lines for all these things, I'd say that one thing is that all of these roles are cross-functional. So if you're not comfortable with that, then that might be coming in as a challenge. Because
Yeah.
if you're too used to, I'm only in marketing, I'm only in finance, and I'm used to I'm just a widget mover, I don't think that's going to work out. So is this okay?
There's a reason that all of these say manager, that
Right.
they are, and this product managers, project managers, all these folks are an interesting example, all of them, of managers who might not have anyone below them, who might not have a team that
Hmm.
is theirs, but they are. So you can find a lot of times you can find a product manager who's between a whole bunch of teams,
Right.
and they aren't responsible for anyone, but they are responsible for everyone's output, for everyone's for the project. Like they don't own the team, but they own the project or the product. Um, so it's an interesting, and I can tell you that that sometimes can get dicey from
Yeah.
a hierarchical perspective, but it makes it important to be a people manager. Um,
Hmm. You know what? I read in some shady place that responsibility without authority is slavery. Now, obviously, this is
yeah,
the person was being facetious, but they have a point, right? Like
yeah.
if so, how do companies or entities manage this problem?
In a lot of ways, that I think the only way that they can really the product manager might not have authority, but I think they have to be comfortable with honesty,
Okay.
with being transparent, uh,
Hmm.
and not blame, like not thrown around like, well, this didn't get done because engineering, X, Y, and Z, and because product delivery X, Y, and Z. That is not that that is in fact the opposite of what you want to do, because you are it's a relationship job. Um, you are trying to affect change through your relationships. Um, and if that is not at the top of what you're doing,
Hmm.
the first thing that you're trying to do, then you're not going to be successful. Um, and whatever success looks like, you're not going to finish you finish the project on time, or get the product launched correctly, or it is. And the way that you build trust with people is through being honest, and through being, you know, um, self-aware, and being empathetic. You are a connector, and
Yeah.
a people manager.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think a little bit of authority might still help though, because like
Well,
even in
sure.
right, right. Even in autocracies, people worry about my people. The rulers worry about public opinion because there's always a threat of the revolution, right? So
Sure.
even if yeah. So in this way, I'm just thinking like a project manager could be like, hey man, I can't control them, right? Of course.
Yeah.
So that's a cop out, but that could also be a genuine excuse, because how do you like in one of my previous companies, it was a matrix setup. So people who were reporting in my project team, I had to give an input, but they also had functional managers. Functional managers had the top go, but I had to give an input. So that I think aligned the incentives. Is that workable?
That does, and in fact, I think that the authority that all of these roles have is a sign-off authority, is
Hmm.
at some point is an acceptance authority. So you as the product manager, usually where it falls into play. If you don't have um any other like really codified output, your codified output is going to be that
Hmm.
you accept requirements, you say, yes, this is what we should be building. Yes, this is going to provide the value for the customer, and yes, that value aligns with what we are trying to do as a company.
Right.
Um, so those are, and the nothing should move forward unless you are there approving it. So
Right.
they're so the approval authority becomes your power lever. Um, but otherwise, I mean, I've talked to a lot of product managers who over the years who just have tried to affect change upwards, who have
Hmm.
tried to manage product or manage transformation in a company without any authority and without any buy-in from higher ups, from the C-suite, from executives, or they might have buy-in from uh, you might have um, a CEO who listens to a podcast and
Hmm.
gets really excited about product-led growth, and product operations, and then runs out and goes to the director of product and says, like, we need all these people, and and then you actually try and start doing the initiative and you hire the people, and then those folks don't actually have any buy-in from the rest of the company. That
Right.
there's that happens a bunch,
Mm.
and you talk to the product managers after that, and they're like, yeah, I came on board, I stuck it out for a year, tried to affect change, tried to like build relationships. I felt like I had really good relationships and I was really making it happen, but it was that this was beyond me. So I left. So I went to look for something else. Um, so there is going to be limitation to the change you can't affect. And
Right.
that's, I mean, that might be true of every position, but
Yeah.
I think it is especially true of of product management where you can't even affect direct change on your team a lot of times because you don't have a
Yeah.
direct team.
Yeah. Yeah. So, okay. Now introducing some darker elements, right? You've seen House of Cards?
Yes.
All right. So that guy is a whip ultimately. Now, do
Uh,
you think you need that capability of being a whip to
um,
get things done here in this space?
yeah, I mean, it's fun. I think of it more in the less in the classic, like, I know the reason it's called a whip. But there is, I think, the more modern,
More softer.
maybe the more modern idea of that, of like whipping up votes or like whipping up support.
Hmm.
I don't think of as being as violent an act as as all that. Uh, but it is that's essentially it. You're
Yeah.
getting by. When I was director of product management at Informa, like all I did was, and actually a lot now, like at FEMA, that all I'm doing is talking to people, is meetings, is like
Hmm.
building slide decks, is talking about our product vision, talking and trying to figure out what pain points are, trying to align our metrics, and saying, like, having side conversations with people and being like, what does sales want? What do
Hmm.
you want? Like, what is important to you right now that we can talk about here? And sometimes the answer is we can't align on this. Like,
Right.
if your metric in sales is trying to increase your commissions and mine is to increase the um stickiness of the platform, the like daily average users over monthly average users, something like that, then those might not align. I might be able to find a way that they align, and that's my challenge the as the product manager, as the director of product, trying to make things, trying to take our different metrics and dovetail them together,
Hmm.
hopefully into something that the business wants too. Um, but honestly, they are, it doesn't always work, and those are times when you have to have kind of tough conversations. You have to bring it to somebody higher than everyone and say, "Hey, we need a decision on this,"
Yeah.
or where you might have to like take an L. Sometimes like that. I've seen stuff get deprioritized that I've really felt passionate about,
Hmm.
because of different priorities in the company or by a senior stakeholder. And it's a real bummer, but it it happens a lot just because of the position we're in.
Right. Right. And of course, the name manager implies that there is something to be managed. There is a certain scarcity of something which needs to be managed. And that's the reason why you have a manager at all.
Yeah. And
Right.
that scarcity is time. Like you
Hmm.
are, it's all, and I mean, the, overall resources too, like your money, your people. But there's only one, there is, when it comes down to it, like you've only got 1 week, one like 2 weeks on your sprint or whatever it is. Like,
Right.
how are you gonna spend that 2 weeks? You've
Right.
only got one release per month. What are you gonna do for that release? Like that, those are your points of scarcity, and those are the places that you show your value the most.
Yeah. 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 Okay. So I want to ask some oddball questions in the last section of,
Yeah,
or I think oddball questions in the last
let's go
section of
for
the
it.
podcast. All right. Cities in the US especially, they I think they have like two kind of structures. One of the structure is having a city manager. So like people, they elect the people, but the city manager is appointed and he's a professional. I think the Swiss system also works like that. The executive council and they have a country manager. Now, is that essentially a project management role, like a cross-functional role? And I'd ask the same thing about regular leadership in a company and a brand manager in a company like P&G. What do you think are parallels over here?
Um, so for the on the government side, um, I don't know if I know enough about it to be able to speak to it honestly, but
Sure.
it always seemed to me like I live in Montclair, New Jersey, and we have a city manager here
Hmm.
and a mayor. Like, and so I kind of thought of it as the the difference between I always thought of it as a I know they're both elected,
Oh, okay. I don't know
but
that.
but that's not always the case. Like they
Hmm.
are you have a some actually I take it back. The mayor is elected in the city and the manager is appointed, which is makes sense because that then the mayor is a political position and the city manager is a bureaucrat. They're an operational person. This is
Right.
something I see a lot in working for the government now,
Hmm.
that you've got a difference between your folks that are going to be there year to year and 4 years to 4 years,
Right.
and understand the system, understand the operations, and then the people that are political appointees that are essentially uh, they're directing the vision,
Right.
right? So it is a strategic versus tactical breakdown.
Hmm.
And I think it's a really great seeing it from the inside from the government. It's a pretty great system where you've got people who are so devoted to like public service and so knowledgeable about how these incredibly complicated systems work that they are going to be there in 5 years.
Hmm.
As but that the normal people, normal citizens have the ability to change what it is that they're working on
Hmm.
through voting, through representative appointment. And I think that's the analog to this would be for private companies, I guess, would be like replacing the CEO, but keeping the COO. Um,
Hmm.
you
Okay.
are replacing the vision, potentially direction of a company, like, but the COO maintains. Oh, sorry about that. Um, but the COO is going to
Keep the wheels running, like the operations.
yes, exactly.
Right.
Um, they are going to keep operations going, and from uh, that way the tactical side of the company is
Yeah.
secure, and isn't going to change throughout this leadership. And I think that's a much safer way to do change management through,
Yeah.
but when you're changing something from the top.
Okay. So two more questions. So
Yeah.
all of these managers, the cross-functional managers, let's call them, they
Yeah.
are fundamentally just change managers.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Pretty
That
much. All right.
that is, and you might see change managers as a different as
Title.
a
Yeah.
different function, different title.
Hmm.
At Informa, such a huge company, change management was a different discipline, like an entire office
Hmm.
that would sort of lend itself out to help with initiatives, to help with projects, to help with products. It was incredible because these folks really knew what they were doing, and they would help us, they would coach us in
Hmm.
influencing people through change. So any transformation system, change managers um, change management is necessary. And yes, because you're necessarily changing things when you're one of these roles, you are a change manager.
Okay. In the C-suite, we've got a lot of roles, a lot of fancy ones have come up off late, but looking from the cross-functional lens, who is the most cross-functional manager in the C-suite, apart from the CEO, obviously?
In the C-suite? Oh
Hmm.
man. I would say the COO.
COO? Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
They are the COOs are sorry, I am actually going to turn this on Do Not Disturb now. Thank you. Sorry about that.
No worries.
The COOs, I mean, the entire C-suite should be cross-functional.
Hmm.
That should be their roles are to be sort of T-shaped and to have that to have their discipline, their silo totally taken care of, but to connect with each other
Yeah.
across functionally and with each other at their level.
Hmm.
Um, but the COO, I think just because of by nature of what they do, they kind of touch everyone, and they might have, but just because of what they do, they probably don't, they want as small a footprint as possible,
Hmm.
because everything that they're doing is to make the other like direct money makers more efficient.
Yeah, yeah.
You want your engineering team to, if you have an extra money for a resource, you want to put it towards engineering so that you can ship more software. You want to put it towards sales so you can get more, have another person driving those leads. Like there are those are the direct, there's a direct correlation between that position and more money.
Right.
As opposed to there is an indirect, a few steps away, between maybe another accountant or another, I mean, anyone in operations. Let's think, an office manager.
Hmm.
These are necessary roles,
Yeah.
um,
Cost centers.
but what's that? Sorry.
They're cost centers,
Yes, exactly.
effectively.
Yeah,
Right, right. Okay, so three more quick comparison questions
yeah.
then.
Go
What
for it.
is a chief of staff? And are they a kind of project manager? Like I know in the government, sure, but like in a lot of CEOs have chiefs of staff, and I don't understand, like he's already a CEO, he is the chief of staff, and he has another chief of staff. What's the point of that?
I think chief of staff is a COO, and the president is CEO. That's
Right.
how I would look at it.
Okay,
Um,
okay.
yeah.
Um, and then a brand manager
Uh,
and an event manager, are they also cross-functional roles, in your opinion?
yes.
Hmm. Okay.
Um, brand manager has a foot in product, has a foot in marketing, has well, I mean, those are the two, I guess, the two biggest places,
Yeah.
usually. And a sorry, what was the other one? It was brand manager and
Event manager.
event manager. And yeah, the event managers are and closely aligned with COOs, like they um same idea. They are probably, they might have a team put together for a project, but
Hmm.
for the actual, like the actual instance of the event. But they are, I think that they have to be cross-functional to influence and to get, resources, and to do everything they need to do.
Okay, perfect. So last question. How much do you think these cross-functional roles are going to be more and more important since routine tasks are being automated away for the last 150 years?
That is a great question. And I think that they're going to be incredibly important. The routine tasks themselves are, you're not getting rid of human intervention completely. And I know, I could be eating my words in 10 years as AI is doing more and more, but AI is going to create other kinds of jobs and, for humans. And, it's just going to, who's to say, like, I heard a technologist talking about, what AI is going to do, and thinking about it in terms of what, like the cell phone did, where it just changed the way that we think. It changed the way that our memory works,
Yeah.
because we have this extension. It's almost like a cyborg extension to what you, to the human body.
Yeah.
So it's going to create more opportunities and more jobs down the road. The cross-functional manager is, if there's a reduction in mundane recurring tasks, then yeah, the manager is going to be the person that is left. The cross-functional manager might be the person who is left holding the bag at the end when the computers are doing whatever they do.
Hmm.
And the sort of old version of manager is like,
Going
what
away?
was what sorry, it's
Is
going
it
away.
going away? Okay.
It's like, the smaller teams get, the tougher it is to, like,
Hmm.
the less, I think, important a middle manager is.
Right.
Um, and but the more dependent upon each other, the more cross-functional the teams and companies and the systems are getting, the more complex they're getting, the
Hmm.
more important these cross-functional roles are.
Wow. Okay. So I'd say maybe learn cross-functional skill sets and
You know,
sales as well as building.
yeah, and it all goes back to what we were talking about at first, that
Hmm.
it is about being empathetic and listening and learning about what it is that your business is and what other people do, and how, like, just what is important to this other person. Active listening, and like actually learning how to do active listening was such a huge skill for me to invest some time into figuring out how to sit back and actually listen to what somebody's saying,
Hmm.
repeating things back to them, and that they're saying, in my own words, like making sure that we're on the same page.
Right.
Um,
Sorry, you're back.
That was me. Well, we froze.
No,
But
no, but I heard everything. It's fine.
yeah, cool. Okay. But yeah, I think that that the more complex things get, the more you want to learn to listen to people and learn to learn. Like
Yeah. Yeah.
those things are important.
Okay. So before we stop the recording, Jeff, just let us know, let the audience know, because are you still a mentor with the ADP list and other places?
I am, yeah. I'm on ADP list as a mentor, so please reach out if you want to chat. I'm on LinkedIn.
Right.
Send me a direct message and yeah, tell me all the things I got wrong, please. But yeah, I'd love to talk to people. I love to nerd out about product stuff and yeah, to build the network.
Perfect. I'm going to link your LinkedIn as well as ADP list profiles
Awesome.
in the show notes.
Cool.
Awesome. See you around, folks.
All right, man.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.